Hello, my name is Allison in Wonderland, and today I am going to do a podcast-like video, but it's more going to be like a story that I'm going to read you so you can listen to it. There's two parts of this story, so I'm going to make two parts of the video, and here is part one of the story. It's called Part 1, The Story of the Addams Family and Their Electromagnetic Bloodline. There once was true nothingness. Some would call it the number 0. Others might recognize it as the neutron. At first, the 0 neutron was negative, because the negative 0 charge neutron was quite lonely and unstable. So it divided itself by itself to create its mirror image, or shall I say its opposite, the stable positive charged neutron. Some might recognize this positive 0 neutron as the positive 1 proton. The negative neutron and the positive proton had one issue. Only one of them could exist in the space at a time. So the magnetic duel started to see which of the two neutrons would be greater than the other. Though the negative 0 neutron was technically greater and the creator of the positive 0 neutron, also known as the positive 1 proton, the positive 0 neutron won the magnetic duel, since it was greater than the sum of its parts. This allowed it to be more stable, creating something, aka time, in nothingness. Legend says the negative 0 neutron imploded on itself, allowing space to thrive in nothingness, while the positive proton simultaneously exploded outwards, allowing something to exist in nothingness. In other words, allowing time to exist in space. The 0 space neutron and the 1 time proton had to eventually meet somewhere, creating their child, the negative 2 electron. Some would nickname this electron child as the Big Bang, or the event horizon. The electron child was special because it could be either negative or positive, depending on which parent needed to borrow it. The negative electron had a mind as great as the negative 0 neutron, yet also shared the physical properties of the positive 1 proton. Together they formed a circle triangle, connected together by the electromagnetic bloodline. They called themselves the positives atom family. Together they created something even greater. Just like the negative 0 charged neutron had to create its own counterparts, the positive atoms family had to create their whole opposite counterpart, the negative atoms family. The negative atom family was the mirror image of the positive atom family. Suddenly, the negative 0 neutron was the positive 0 neutron. The positive 1 proton turned into the negative 1 proton. But their child, the negative electron, could always be negative or positive, so the negative electron decided it would be positive for the negatives atom family. One day, the positive atom family and the negative atom family decided to come together to create something even greater, the molecule family. The molecule family was quite special indeed. With the help of the atoms family, they created the elements. There were many of the elements, but their purpose was great. They were supposed to rule the world. These elements created by the atoms family liked to create different formulas to form even greater elements out of the atoms. Some of the elements created would be negative and toxic, while others were positive and non-toxic. Over trillions of years, or space-time, like magic, the atoms family created whole universes, suns, people, animals, and plants out of themselves. The elements created formulas so grand they had to balance them out somehow, so they called it the chaotic pattern. Some might find the formula as complicated as DNA. Others thought it was as easy as pi or tau. They discovered if they left the toxic elemental stew alone and let it to stew, it turned into non-toxic elements, which would eventually come alive if mixed with the negative electric electron and the positive aquatic electron. It started on a microscopic level and grew in size until it created the electric brainstem with the aquatic body, aka the human. The Addams family was small, so small in fact, one could say with the naked eye they were invisible. It was their mission to become so grand that they became something, everything, you could possibly perceive with your eyes. And so they asked the world, don't you see that all the planets rotate around the sun in the same pattern as the electron would revolve around the nucleus? It was as though the whole universe was the atom itself in massive size. The sun was our atom, or atom in the Bible, a neutron plus a proton, in other words. The Earth rotates around the sun and its own axis, just like the electron would rotate around the nucleus on its own axis. But the Earth is special because it also has the moon rotating around it. So the Earth itself can be both the electron and atom at the same time because it's the sun's electron. But the moon would be the Earth's personal electron. Each planet rotating around the sun is just an atom at its most complicated state. It was everything. After all, magnetism was simply the mirror image of gravity. Imagine a tiny verse, like in Rick and Morty, but instead of it being people, it's really atoms that make up this tiny verse, and these atoms eventually create the universe. You can be small and grand simultaneously. The Addams family held hands to create something even greater than themselves, yet they still exist in their microscopic form individually. And thus the family history of the electromagnetic bloodline of the Addams family has been told. Here is part infinity of the atom. I will have the links below to the story so you can actually see the lines that I put within the story, so it makes a little bit more sense than me just reading it if anyone is interested. So here's part infinity of the atom, or part 2 of the story. When something is magnetic, its magnetic energy lines up in negative straight lines, so negative, 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 or and negative, 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 negative. When something is not magnetic, these negative lines are randomized and can go into any direction. So it can go this direction, it can go this direction, this direction, this direction. It can go in any direction. We had our lonely, zero-charged neutron, aka true nothingness. Well, this negative charged neutron was technically stable on the inside, line, because the particles, the negative straight line particles, lined up in such a way that on the left and the right side of the line, it created magnetism. This magnetism was special because it was the opposite of regular magnetism. It was the same forces, a negative and a negative, setting itself up in such a way that it became a strong, stable magnetic force, aka line, or line. The stable zero neutron also had an edge. So we have all these lines inside of zero, and the edge of the zero would be the edge of the inside. This edge was important because some of the stable magnetic neutron particles managed to escape the neutron nucleus. How? Because the edge on the left and the right of these stable particles, there was not another straight, stable particle to keep it magnetically stable and together. This caused some of the negative particles at the edge of the inside of the neutron to escape because they were not stable, since they were only held together by one, which is unstable, not two on either side, keeping them stable, allowing the edge, one particle, to escape into the non-magnetic free space. So we have this and this. It is unstable because there's nothing holding them together. This one is not getting held together on this side and this side. But then we have our third particle, and it would be like this. And it would be stable because it has something right here, and it would keep it in line instead of it just being like this, and then it would just go away. There, these escaped magnetic particles were first randomized non-magnetically, but over time and space they found themselves again and lined up once again to form a magnetic circle around the original zero neutron they had escaped. The zero neutron did what it always did. It was stable itself, but at the edge, some of its magnetic energy always managed to escape into the space. The space did not have gravity, by the way. That's why they were all randomized. Only the zero had gravity, which is why they eventually found their way back to it. But this time, since its first particles had created another magnetic circle around the original zero neutron, the escaped negative particles had to cross the newly created magnetic circle around the zero-charged neutron nucleus. This caused the positives to be created, aka the positive 1 proton, because since there was now another circle around the zero, these little particles inside it would escape out it, and they created a positive. They created a positive at one point. And that's really important because that's when the proton would have gotten created out of the neutron itself. You create something out of nothing. The moment the escaped zero neutron particle escaped its nucleus and reached its magnetic circle, aka the proton circle around the edge, it created an explosion, the electron, which brought life to the atom and the event horizon, where the zero neutron nucleus and its creation, the magnetic proton circle around it, met. One has to remember that the stable zero neutron let its particles escape because it too had to decay into something. This something was called dark matter. The neutron by itself was dark matter, aka true nothingness, also known as space. But the neutron was a genius, so he turned this decay of losing its magnetic neutron particles in the free space to create the positive matter proton out of itself, with the magnetic circle it created around its zero neutron nucleus. The two opposing sums then created something even greater out of the decay, the electric electron, which brought to life the growing yet decaying space neutron. Together they called themselves atom the atom. Energy was neither created nor destroyed. It was simply recycled. And every time it was recycled, it created something even greater out of its decaying parts. It's not like the zero-charged neutron nucleus was really a sperm, and the magnetic circle it created around itself was the egg. And once the escaped neutron sperm particle met the magnetic egg circle, it created its sun, the electron, aka the Big Bang, at the event horizon, and together they created the first atom, with its living and decaying electric spark. The atom particles duplicated themselves, some original, some the mirror image, and came together and created the molecules, which came together to create the whole worlds, universes, and life. Once the cycle ended and the zero neutron ran out of sperm to release into its flower of life, it would decay back into dark matter, a black hole of space, true nothingness and true everything, and would start the cycle of releasing its sperm all over again to create something, and so the cycle shall continue for infinity and beyond. Aka Atom the Atom,